child she never told me about. The doorbell rang at 7:43 p.m. on a Tuesday, interrupting the comfortable rhythm of our evening routine. Sarah was loading the dishwasher while I helped our 8-year-old Emma with her math homework. We weren't expecting anyone. "I'll get it," I called out, sliding my reading glasses up my nose as I walked to the front door. Through the peephole, I saw a young woman, maybe 19 or 20, with auburn hair and nervous energy that radiated even through the distorted lens. When I opened the door, she looked at me with eyes that seemed oddly familiar, the same shade of green as Sarah's, but harder, more guarded. "Are you David Martinez?" she asked, her voice steady despite the slight tremor in her hands. "Yes, that's me. Can I help you?" "I'm looking for Sarah Chen Martinez. Is she your wife?" Something in her tone made my stomach tighten. "She is. May I ask who's asking?" The young woman took a deep breath, and I noticed she was gripping a manila envelope so tightly her knuckles had gone white. "My name is Riley, Riley Morrison. I think, I think Sarah is my birth mother." The words hit me like a physical blow. I stood there, mouth slightly open, trying to process what she just said. Sarah and I had been married for 10 years. We'd talked about everything: our childhoods, our past relationships, our dreams and fears. Never once had she mentioned giving up a child for adoption. "I'm sorry. I think there might be some mistake." "There's no mistake." Riley's voice grew stronger, more defiant. "I have all the paperwork: birth certificate, adoption records, everything. Sarah Chen, born March 15th, 1985, in Portland, Oregon. Sound familiar?" My mouth went dry. Those were Sarah's exact details. "Who is it, honey?" Sarah's voice drifted from the kitchen, followed by the sound of her footsteps on our hardwood floor. "Is everything." She appeared in the hallway and stopped dead when she saw Riley. The color drained from her face so quickly I thought she might faint. The dish towel she'd been holding slipped from her fingers and fell to the floor. "Oh my God," Sarah whispered. "Riley?" "Hello, Mom," Riley said, and the word mom sounded like a weapon. The silence that followed was deafening. Emma's voice calling from the dining room, asking for help with problem number 7, seemed to come from another universe entirely. "Sarah," I said quietly, my voice barely steady. "What's going on?" Riley answered before Sarah could. "What's going on is that your wife gave birth to me when she was 16 and never bothered to mention it to you. Surprise!" "Riley, please," Sarah's voice cracked. "Can we can we talk? Come in, let me explain." "Oh, now you want to talk?" Riley stepped into our foyer uninvited, her eyes scanning our home with undisguised disdain. "19 years too late for that, don't you think?" I looked at Sarah, searching her face for some explanation, some denial, anything that would make this make sense. But I saw only guilt and terror. "Emma," I called out, trying to keep my voice normal, "why don't you finish your homework upstairs? We have some grown-up things to discuss." After Emma reluctantly gathered her books and headed upstairs, the three of us stood in our living room like strangers. Sarah perched on the edge of our couch, her hands shaking. Riley remained standing, arms crossed, radiating anger. I felt like I was watching someone else's life implode. "Is it true?" I asked Sarah. "Do you have a daughter you never told me about?" Sarah's eyes filled with tears. "David, yes, it's true, but it's not what you think." "What I think," I interrupted, surprised by the anger in my own voice, "is that my wife has been lying to me for 10 years. What I think is that I don't know who you are at all." "That's exactly what I was hoping you'd say," Riley interjected with a bitter smile. "See, Sarah. Sorry, Mom. I didn't come here for some tearful reunion. I came here to return the favor." "What favor?" Sarah asked, though she looked like she already dreaded the answer. Riley opened her manila envelope and pulled out a thick stack of papers. "You destroyed my life when you gave me away, so now I'm going to destroy yours." She spread the documents across our coffee table like a dealer laying out cards: birth certificates, adoption papers, court records, and what looked like private investigator reports. "I've been planning this for 2 years," Riley continued, her voice taking on an almost cheerful tone that made my skin crawl. "Ever since I turned 18 and could legally access my records. Did you know you can find out almost anything about someone if you're patient enough? Your address, your work schedules, where your daughter goes to school?" "Stay away from Emma," Sarah said sharply, the fear in her voice palpable. "Oh, don't worry. I'm not interested in hurting a child. Unlike some people. Riley's smile turned cold. But David here deserves to know the truth about who he married, don't you think? I sank into my armchair, feeling like the ground was shifting beneath me. What truth? Sarah, what is she talking about? Riley pulled out what looked like a printed email. Did you know that your wife has been sending money to my adoptive parents for years? Monthly payments, all the way up until last year. $500 a month for 19 years. That's, let me see, $114,000. I stared at Sarah. Is that true? Sarah's voice was barely a whisper. I wanted to make sure she was taken care of. You wanted to ease your guilt, Riley snapped. There's a difference. But how could you hide that from me? I asked. How could you hide any of this? We share bank accounts, Sarah. We file taxes together. How is this even possible? Riley pulled out another document. Easy. She's been using a separate account. Look here. Sarah opened this account 3 months before you two got married. She's been funneling money into it from her salary and using it to pay my parents. My head was spinning. The Sarah I thought I knew, careful with money, obsessively honest about our finances, had been maintaining a secret life for our entire marriage. There's more, Riley continued, clearly enjoying herself now. Did you know she hired a private investigator to keep tabs on me? School reports, medical records, photos from my social media accounts before I made them private. She's been watching me grow up from a distance. She pulled out a folder filled with what looked like school photos and report cards. Photos of a little girl who looked remarkably like Emma, but with Sarah's eyes and something harder in her expression. You've been spying on me, Riley said to Sarah. For years. Having strangers follow me around, take pictures of me. Do you know how violated that makes me feel? Sarah was crying openly now. I just wanted to know you were okay. I needed to know you were happy. Happy? Riley laughed, but there was no humor in it. You want to know about Happy? Let me tell you about my childhood, Mom. The Morrisons were nice people. I'll give them that. But they were also struggling financially the entire time I was growing up. You know why? Because they took in 3 other foster kids after they adopted me. They wanted to help children who needed homes. She pulled out more papers, what looked like financial records. But guess what happens when you're trying to raise 4 kids on a teacher's and a mechanic's salary? You cut corners. Generic food, hand-me-down clothes, sharing bedrooms. No money for extras like music lessons or sports teams or school trips. While you, she gestured around our comfortable middle-class home, were living here with your new family, sending guilty money that barely covered a fraction of what it actually costs to raise a child. Riley, I was 16 when I had you, Sarah said desperately. I was a child myself. My parents would have disowned me. I had no money, no support, no way to take care of you properly. And yet you managed to figure it all out by the time Emma came along, didn't you? The comparison hit like a slap. I looked at Sarah, really looked at her, and saw her wince. That's different, Sarah said. I was older, married, financially stable. You were 26 when Emma was born, Riley interrupted. Just 10 years older than when you had me. The difference isn't your age, Mom. The difference is that Emma was planned and wanted, and I was an inconvenience. I found my voice. Sarah, how long have you been in contact with her parents? I've never been in direct contact, Sarah said quickly. The payments went through a lawyer. I never spoke to them directly. Riley laughed again. Oh, but you wanted to, didn't you? Tell him about the letters. Sarah's face went white. What letters? I asked, though I was beginning to dread every new revelation. Riley pulled out a bundle of envelopes, all addressed in Sarah's handwriting. Letters to me, dozens of them, all returned unopened by my parents because they thought it would be better if I had a clean break from my birth mother. But she kept writing them anyway. Want to hear what she wrote when I turned 5? She opened one of the letters and began to read in a mocking voice. My dearest Riley, I wonder if you're in kindergarten now. I wonder if you like to read as much as I did at your age. I think about you every day and hope you're happy. I hope your parents tell you stories at bedtime like my mom used to tell me. Stop, Sarah whispered. Please stop. Or how about this one from when I turned 16? Riley's voice grew crueler. I know you're probably dating now, and I hope your parents are giving you good advice about boys. I hope you know how beautiful and smart and special you are. I hope you know that giving you up was the hardest thing I've ever done. She threw the letter down on the table. Beautiful words, Mom. Really touching. Too bad you never actually tried to find out if any of it was true. I picked up one of the letters with shaking hands. It was definitely Sarah's handwriting, filled with the kind of maternal love and longing that broke my heart. But Riley was right. They were letters to an imaginary child, a fantasy daughter who existed only in Sarah's mind. How many are there? I asked. 43, Riley said. One for every birthday, and a few extras for special occasions like when she thought I might be starting high school or graduating. All returned unopened, all kept in her closet like some kind of shrine. I looked at Sarah. In our closet? Where? The box on the top shelf, she whispered. Behind the winter coats. I knew the box she meant. I'd seen it countless times, but never thought to ask what was in it. Now I realized there was an entire secret history of our marriage that I'd been living above, literally and figuratively. Here's my favorite part, Riley continued, pulling out what looked like a legal document. Did you know that your wife never actually terminated her parental rights? The adoption was finalized, but she specifically requested that her rights be suspended rather than terminated. Do you know what that means, David? I shook my head, afraid to find out. It means that technically, legally, she's still my mother, which means that technically, legally, I'm still her daughter, which makes me Emma's half sister. The room started spinning. What are you saying? I'm saying that I could walk into Emma's school tomorrow and request her records as her legal sister. I could show up at her soccer games, her school plays, her birthday parties. I could tell everyone we meet that we're family. Sarah stood up so quickly she knocked over her water glass. You stay away from Emma. I'm warning you. You're warning me? Riley's facade of calm finally cracked. You gave me away like I was garbage, then spent 19 years playing pretend family with the daughter you actually wanted, and now you're warning me? I was 16, Sarah shouted. I was scared and alone, and I thought I was doing what was best for you. What was best for me? Or what was easiest for you? The question hung in the air like a challenge. Sarah's mouth opened and closed, but no words came out. That's what I thought, Riley said quietly. You know what's funny? The Morrisons told me when I was old enough to understand that my birth mother was young and scared, and that she gave me up because she loved me too much to keep me. I actually believed that story for a while. She gestured around our living room again, taking in the family photos on the mantle, Emma's artwork on the refrigerator, the comfortable life we'd built together. But then I started doing the math. You were born in 1985. You had me in 2001. You graduated high school in 2003, college in 2007, got married in 2014, had Emma in 2016. Everything perfectly planned and timed, except for me. I was the mistake that got in the way of your perfect timeline. That's not true, Sarah said, but her voice lacked conviction. Isn't it? Tell me, Mom, when you were holding Emma for the first time, did you think about me? When you were teaching her to walk, to talk, to read, did you wonder what those moments would have been like with me? Sarah's silence was answer enough. Riley nodded as if she'd expected as much. Here's what's going to happen. I'm going to give you a choice, just like you gave me a choice when you decided my entire future without consulting me. She pulled out one final document. This is a petition to unseal all the adoption records and make them public. It includes your full name, David's name, Emma's name, your address, your workplaces, everything. I can file this tomorrow, and within a week, everyone in your life will know your secret. My throat felt like sandpaper. What do you want? What I want is for my birth mother to experience what I experienced. I want her to lose the family she chose over me. I want her to understand what it feels like to have your whole life torn apart by someone else's decisions. She set the document on the coffee table next to all the others. So here's your choice, Sarah. You can tell David and Emma the truth yourself tonight and deal with the consequences of your lies. Or I'll tell them for you, along with everyone else in your life, in the most public and humiliating way possible. You're talking about destroying Emma's life too, I said. She's just a child. So was I, Riley replied without hesitation. But nobody seemed to care about that. The cruelty in her voice was breathtaking, but underneath it, I could hear something else. Pain so deep and raw it made my chest ache. Riley, I said carefully, I understand you're angry. You have every right to be angry. But what you're talking about, this isn't justice. This is revenge. What's the difference? She asked. Justice is what people call revenge when they agree with it. The difference is that justice is about making things right. Revenge is just about making someone else hurt as much as you do. For the first time since she'd walked through our door, Riley looked uncertain. But the moment passed quickly. Pretty words, she said, but they don't change anything. Sarah made her choice 19 years ago. Now it's time for her to live with it. She gathered up her papers and put them back in the envelope. You have 24 hours. Tell them yourself, or I will. She walked toward the door, then paused and looked back at Sarah. Oh, and Mom, in case you're wondering, I turned out fine despite you, not because of you. I'm pre med at Portland State. I volunteer at a homeless shelter, and I'm engaged to a wonderful man who loves me for who I am, not who he wishes I could be. She opened the door, then delivered her final blow. I just thought you should know that the daughter you threw away became everything you probably hoped Emma would become. Sweet dreams. After she left, Sarah and I sat in silence for what felt like hours. Finally, I spoke. 10 years, Sarah. 10 years of marriage, and you never once thought to tell me you had a child. I wanted to, she said quietly. So many times. But as time went on, it got harder and harder. How do you bring up something like that? How do you tell someone you love that you've been lying to them every single day? You start with the truth, I said. You say, David, there's something I need to tell you about my past. It's that simple. Is it? Is it really that simple? Sarah looked at me with red-rimmed eyes. Tell me honestly, if I had told you on our third date that I had a daughter I'd given up for adoption, would you have kept seeing me? The question caught me off guard. I wanted to say yes immediately, but I found myself hesitating. 20-something me, just starting my career, barely ready for the responsibility of a serious relationship, let alone the emotional complexity of being with someone who'd had a child. I don't know, I admitted. Maybe not right away, but I would have wanted the chance to make that decision for myself. And that's exactly why I didn't tell you. Because I was terrified you'd walk away, and I couldn't bear the thought of losing someone else I loved. So instead, you decided to lie to me for 10 years. Do you understand how that makes me feel? Do you understand that every conversation we've ever had about having children, every decision we've made about Emma, every time you've held her and told her you love her, all of it was built on a lie? Sarah began crying again, but I found I couldn't comfort her. The woman sitting across from me looked like my wife, but she felt like a stranger. What else haven't you told me? I asked. What other secrets are hiding in boxes in our closet? Nothing, Sarah said quickly. This is the only thing, I swear. How can I believe you? How can I believe anything you say now? The question hung between us like a chasm neither of us knew how to cross. Upstairs, I could hear Emma getting ready for bed, brushing her teeth and talking to her stuffed animals. Our 8-year-old daughter, who was about to learn that everything she thought she knew about her family was a lie. What are we going to tell her? I asked. I don't know, Sarah whispered. I honestly don't know. That night, we slept in separate rooms for the first time in our marriage. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, trying to reconcile the woman I'd loved for 10 years with the stranger who'd been keeping secrets in our closet. But what haunted me most wasn't Sarah's deception. It was the look in Riley's eyes. Underneath all that anger and pain was a young woman who'd been carrying the weight of abandonment her entire life. A young woman who looked so much like Emma that I couldn't help but wonder, what if it had been Emma who'd been given away? What if it had been my daughter standing in someone else's living room, demanding answers that would never be enough? As the hours ticked by, I realized that Riley wasn't really the villain in this story. Neither was Sarah, despite her lies. They were both just people trying to survive the consequences of an impossible choice made by a scared 16-year-old girl 19 years ago. But knowing that didn't make the betrayal hurt any less. And it didn't answer the question that would determine the fate of our marriage. Can love survive when trust is gone? Outside my window, dawn was beginning to break. In a few hours, Emma would wake up asking for breakfast and help finding her favorite shirt. Sarah would have to decide whether to tell our daughter she has a sister she's never met. And I would have to decide whether the woman I married still existed or if she'd been a beautiful fiction all along. 24 hours. The clock was ticking.